It's just not, for whatever reason, it's not picking it up.
Here we go.
See if it. I don't know if they can hear me now. Okay, Kyle says you can hear us. Can you guys hear us? Can you respond? Did I fix
All
the?
right, chat. You guys picking us up?
Did I fix it?
All right.
Okay. Sorry about
Well,
that. That was my goof. So
welcome
go
back
ahead and
to the
introduce us again, Brian. What were we doing?
yeah. Welcome back to the Harambe's Heroes podcast. We're gonna go over the list for tomorrow, and I know some of you guys have seen in the Discord that we are gonna be implementing some of the terrain rules, and we're basically running it very similar to the way that Frontline Gaming's running some of theirs. And I think it's really important for all of us, as much as we hate those rules, to familiarize ourselves with them enough where we can be able to do it quickly in a big tournament setting. I know everybody hates getting to turn two in a game ending, so we would like to, just familiarize everybody with that. But thanks for coming in today. And we got Evan, and like we said earlier, Gavin's kind of out of the loop with his camera and where we're set up. But hobby wise, what you been working on, Evan?
Shoot. I've been working on still painting my Slanesh army. Kind of took a little bit of a break from it because I did a last minute purchase of Nighthawk, and yeah, painted all that up in a few days actually, using
Nice.
100% airbrush and contrast. Love it.
That's awesome.
So get to see it
It,
tomorrow. So how about you,
yeah,
Gavin?
Kyle's asking in the chat if yeah, full terrain rules. Like,
Hmm.
no, not setting terrain up one piece at a time, because I don't think that's ever gonna happen in a real GT setting in America. Like I heard in Europe they have to actually bring their own terrain and things like that. That's not how we're doing it. So basically, the only thing is I have printouts for every table um, of the terrain rules, and you're going to roll your dice and you're going to set up your terrain for each piece of terrain. You're going to set up the rule for each piece. So I will have a printout for everybody. I know those are some obscure rules for some of us. They're obscure for me. I had to read over them. And then I did go live with the mission packet, but I locked all the lists, so no list editing at this point. Um,
No cheating.
yeah. So back to you, Gavin. What you been working on?
I've got some old, just the Ogre still for the most part, and then waiting on Soul Blight. I'm real excited about Soul Blight, so whenever that stuff comes out, and when third edition comes out, it's the big thing I'm probably waiting on, is just to see how the game's affected. I think a lot of people are stuck there, where you're just waiting to see what the third edition rules are, so you know where to go with your hobby. But that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm just like we talked about earlier. I'm just painting things I want to paint versus, worrying about building any specific lists or anything. So, been working on some OBR.
Hmm.
So, it'll be fun to get these things on the table eventually. There's a lot. I mean, I'm spending a lot of time on each model, so it won't be on the table anytime soon. But I'm getting them there slowly but surely.
Cool.
It's funny. We finally got this internet going. Evan was like the Russian astronaut in Armageddon, just banging on things with a hammer until it started working.
Just hit it with a rock until something finally worked. And even then, I kind of like only duct taped it together out of it. So uh, had to add. I know James is saying the sound is overall quiet. Sorry, I had to reset all the settings. So please let us know throughout it if it's too quiet or too loud or something. I'll adjust as we go along. So
Yeah, I can speak up a little bit too. Maybe that'll help.
okay, good. So everyone's at least able to hear us. So okay, cool.
Okay.
So what are we doing next?
Well, we can start out with the mission packet. I pulled missions from the upcoming GT in Atlantic City that myself and Gavin are going to. James is going as well. Um, so mission one will be straight from that packet, and that's Border Wars from the core rulebook, or Border War. So it's very similar to like Battle for the Pass, but with short board. Similar rules. Like
Yeah.
the center objectives are worth 2 points. The one in your enemy's deployment
Worth
zone
4.
is worth, or in their territory is worth 4.
This
Very
one's
similar.
Yeah, this one's no behemoth getting an extra point though.
Yeah, that's it. These are all the old core rule books, so no battlefield role gaining extra points. I think it looks like it's going to be a fun mission because it's going to be just a bloodbath in the middle, trying to fight over those objectives because you're
Yep.
so close. You're starting out 24 inches away from each other, and most armies that everyone plays right now can close that distance pretty quickly.
Yeah, and as far as
So-
the realm of metals, it looks like we have it at least twice on here. Is that?
Yes, what I did is I mirrored because what's going to happen at this one, and I expect the same if these rules still holds. If the realms still hold for third edition, I expect to see the same in Dallas, where they pick a realm for each day. So I picked 2 missions from day 1 that would be in that realm, and then a single mission from day 2. Um, Also, by the way, these missions are all randomly decided on these days. So I just picked 3 that I thought. I picked one of the core rulebook ones and some ones that we haven't played lately. I know Arcane Power was on there. I didn't pick that one because I figured you guys didn't want me to just 3-0 this thing again with a Marathi.
Mm.
So
Bring another ringer list.
actually, I'm bringing. We'll see when we get to the ringer. It is. If you lose to this army or the list that I'm bringing, it's not my fault. Like, if I start beating you, I'm just going to concede.
That's gonna be a pretty bad day if you have to concede with this list. So
Yeah.
I'd rather you just
But
beat
yeah.
me.
And then you got Blade's Edge, and you guys understand Blade's Edge is fun mission. I like it. And then shifting objectives, pretty simple. 3 in the middle. You decide before the turn roll off, or before the turn is chosen. You decide which one's the priority for the turn. And I believe in that one, Battle Line scores extra points for scoring that objective in shifting objectives. Yeah,
And
Kevin, you're welcome. Welcome, Kevin. You're running late. You're usually beating down the door about 8:15.
So is it when it says 2020, are these all in the General's Handbook or in the core rules book?
Those are all in the 2020 General's Handbook.
Okay.
And then the Border Wars from the core rule book.
Gotcha.
But I have the rules for that as well to help anybody out. What I'll probably do is get there obviously a little early and get those tables set up for that first match the way Andrew did for us last week with whatever that stupid one was that we did last week.
And do we actually have any grudges this time around?
No one has messaged me wanting a grudge or anything like that. So no, not as of now.
Very cool. I'm sure there'll be one last minute grudge.
Possibly.
I'll grudge the ringer. How about that?
Last chance in the chat, right? Gotta avoid all the
last
strong
chance.
players.
Here's the ring. Here's your last shot. I'm not taking any grudges tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll grudge the ringer just to make it easy for me. Okay, cool. Well, that's it for that, and then I guess we can go to the actual roster for the lists and such.
Yeah, we'll go through the list. There's
Okay.
some cool stuff coming. You guys are bringing some heat. Looking forward to it, and a lot of new stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, so first up, we actually have the first of 2 Dracothian Tales Seraphon lists. This one from Andrew. So.
James said you can't judge you can't grudge the ringer. That's an auto loss for you.
That's right. I don't want to be knocked out round 1. Or game 1. That wouldn't be too good.
Yeah. All right. So what do we have in here?
Well, it looks like typical Seraphon, Croak, Skink, Skink Priest, Astroth Bearer.
Seraphon. No Star Priest. That's what jumps out to me.
Yeah, no Star Priest. A couple of Carnosaurs.
No
Mortals.
No. but still got the Sword Scar to keep the
Yeah.
Swan safe. So
Sunclaw
that'll
Starhost.
be
Yeah.
important. He'll have a lot of summoning points with the double slan and Astrolith Bearer, and so he'll be generating more stuff as long as like his hero support stays alive.
Yeah, and
So-
that Slon has a regenerate too. Like he comes back to life, I believe, in Dracothian's Tale, right? Like the artifact is like he.
Yeah, God Beast
It's a re-
Pendant,
Yep.
wherever that is. That might be on his Carnosaur. Let me look. Did he put it on? What did he put it on? I think he put it on his Carnosaur. Before we get any further, I have one thing to say. It's on his Carnosaur. So his Carnosaur might come back to life. Why do you use this shit ass freaking application? Why Battlestrap? Why?
I'm like, I'm having a hard time looking it over. I'm like, where is everything?
Yeah. Why did you do this, Andrew? We should give you an auto loss for this.
You like messing with people.
This should be outlawed.
Subtract
This is
5
a war
points from
crime.
your total.
Yeah.
For every minute we've had to stare at this. Yeah, looks
Me-
like a pretty fun list. The Sunclaw is is that the one that does the mortals? Or I can't remember.
It gives the extra rend on.
That's
the
right.
Celestial weapons inside the battalion. So
Yeah,
help.
that's pretty cool. It'll be fun.
he'll have the clubs will have 2 rend, and they'll be deep striking, and then with the reroll charges, I think one thing that could maybe make the list better is the little skink that sits in the chair, lets you charge 3d6 in Dracothian's Tale. I feel like that's a good play with this. It's very complementary to what the list is trying to kind of do already. So I think that would have been cool to see. But I mean, even with just a reroll, like a 9-inch reroll is pretty good. An 8, he's got a good chance of making a charge off of deep strike. So
Gonna have
really
that
strong
Croaknado going in solo.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Trusty
Croaknado.
Bastillodon, not double shooting. Sad.
Yeah, have him try to
Really good.
get off Croak before he gets changed.
Yeah, one more. Right.
But at
before it rises to
220
the
points,
sunset.
it's funny how there's like you can almost always get at least one Bastillodon in a list. Like when I was list building with Seraphon, it was the same way. I was like, I have 220 points left over, and I have everything else that I want. Oh, okay, Bastillodon, that'll work.
Yeah, there's always enough points to kind of throw in something, or worst case, you just bring like another 40 skinks. So, that's cool. All right, well, up
cool
next,
list, Andrew, and I'm looking forward to seeing him come out and play. Usually,
we have another Dracothian's Tale Seraphon from Chris, one of the Dallas guys from the looks of it.
Yeah, we got 3 guys coming in from Dallas. It'll be fun. So defend the home turf, guys. Don't make the ringer have to do it.
See a much better list to look at. Need to almost give this guy more points.
Yeah. So his Slon does have the resurrection. His Slon has the
God Beast pendant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Engine of the Gods, Skink Star Priest, 2 Skink Star Priests.
Double Star Priest, Astrolith Bear, Engine of the Gods.
That's gonna be some
Slon and Crow.
juiced up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's running
Not a whole lot of screens, so
maybe all
what would
going in on the summoning, I guess.
going in on summoning and starting your important stuff off the board.
Razordons, deep striking Razordons.
Yeah, that'll be cool. They have I hope this guy's bringing a lot of dice because they have 1,000 attacks, I think, on average.
Yeah,
Razordons are cool.
Minimum battle line. That'll be interesting. I think it's definitely a attrition list from the looks of it. If you don't kill those heroes,
I think it's gonna struggle into anything that can alpha real hard, and because he doesn't have a lot of screen, and some of this is going to have to be on the board, and he's very hero heavy, so some of this stuff is going to have to be on the board.
Yeah, Trevor,
So I
I
think he's gonna
agree. You need to make them fight each other.
But if you don't have
These,
the ability
another
to
thing
output
about
it real
these
hard,
Razor Dawns is that they're fairly susceptible to battle shock as well, even with 10 bravery, because all the handlers die first. So
hmm
you lose. There's like 12 handlers and then the Razor Dawns and the hunting packs. So I mean, if you lose all the handlers, that's you're losing all of the Razor Dawns if you can't
yeah,
auto pass them. So that's one thing. I like the Source Guard with a double slant. It keeps them safe. So if you're hiding stuff, it keeps that alive, like kind of like more of a slam dunk when they get alive. You see a lot of Source Guard in Seraphon nowadays because everyone's figured out that the slan is pretty critical. So keeping the slan alive in Seraphon's good. So Source Guard are good even if you're paying a premium for them. It's got the double Star Priest, so like two more than Andrew has. You should have let him borrow one. So they could both have portals, but so the thing maybe the trouble that I would see him having is just he wants to put the venom on the Razor Dawns, but without a Skink Priest, he's going to have trouble getting into range with both of them first turn.
hmm
So there's kind of like some redundancy that he doesn't need probably with the Star Priest, but it's still good to have that character because it's still a bargain for
really
120 points. So
yeah,
cool list. You don't see Razor Dawns, so it's cool to see those.
Yeah.
Like a million drops, but
a little low wounds. I don't know how typical the Seraphon lists are, but
yeah, usually with Skinks you can get really high, even when you're taking other stuff. But he's only got 20 of them, so
I'm
low
curious
on the
to
wound
see
count. He'll
the.
be able to summon a lot because of the same hero track that Andrew had. He has it as well, so he'll be generating lots of summoning points.
Bound
yeah,
Gnashing
plus an Engine
Jaw.
of the Gods.
Oops.
Interesting.
Controller.
Interesting. Cool. Well,
Yeah, Bound Ravenax Jaws. You don't see that very often.
yeah,
It'd be cool.
I was thinking that. I was like, I don't
I mean,
think I've
we'll
ever
see
seen it.
how he plays it. Like what starts off the board, what stays on the
I
board.
mean,
But
luckily it's bound, so I mean, it's not. There's no real risk to it. It's not,
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying the list in general.
oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I
what's on the
think
board?
it's one of those things where if you don't have shooting, or you don't have a way to get to one side of the board to the other quick enough, he's just gonna snowball. From the looks of it, like there's a lot of potential there to
Yeah,
end the
especially
game with
like
more stuff than he
mid-game.
started with. So cool. Well, up next,
Go.
I guess I'll let you talk about this one because it's a corn list. Gore-Tide from David,
Oh
another Dallas
yeah,
guy.
this is David. He came down. He was playing Legion of the First
Ooh,
Prince, so Chaos Ascendant, a while back,
I remember
and
him.
yeah, he came down from Dallas, and he's
Corn
been.
Dragon.
We've been talking a lot lately, and he's been wanting to get down. It's tough for him to schedule it because of his job, but he was finally able to get down. So yeah, he's rocking Gore-Tide with the Corn Dragon. David, if you're listening, or if you heard when you sent me your list, you had two artifacts in there and no battalion. So I took off the one that you couldn't have. So you had Gore Cleaver on your Blood Scrader, and you can't have it. So just went ahead and took it off because you can't avoid Thronebreaker's Torque if you're playing Gore-Tide.
Look at Brian checking lists.
So
Impressive.
corn. So he's got the Corn Dragon. Only one Slaughter Priest, which is and with Killing Frenzy, I would if you're gonna bring a big beat stick like the Corn Dragon, I would almost always bring a couple of Slaughter Priests for sure to try to help it out and give it,
Buff it up.
a better save. And I like the Corn Dragon actually more and more as this new stuff comes out. I really like it in Flayed where it can get a permanent +1 save, and then with the Bronze Flesh, you can get it down to a 2+, and then it makes the artifacts from it makes your prayer rolls a little bit more consistent with re-rolling ones on those. At least maybe not more consistent, but it keeps you from blowing yourself up when you're trying to blood boil things. It lets you get real aggressive with those Slaughter Priests. The issue with them, they were really strong when they came out. Then they kind of died down because everyone knew that 16-inch bubble and how to avoid it. But if you get aggressive with them, you can do some damage. But I think this one's mainly just a buff piece in this list. 20 Blood Reavers, 10 Blood Reavers, 10 Blood Reavers, just to cover his battle line,
Blood Crushers.
and 3 Blood Crushers. So the Wrathmongers are going to be there to give, probably going to be following the Corn Dragon or be right in front of it to give it extra attack, and then the so everything's around that corn dragon, just buffing his attacks up. So if the but I don't know if the corn dragon can be buffed by the Wrathmongers because of its base size.
Was it wholly within 12?
Wholly within 8.
I guess if you have the corn dragon sideways, going up the board sideways, you can have them within
It
8 of
doesn't have a
that.
round base.
No, it's a oval base. It's like
Like
12
the
inches. It's 12 inches by like 8 inches. So you can do it. It's just you have to have them base to base pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the same thing as the Dreadsarian base. It's just a big oval dinner
be
plate.
some positioning. I mean, Corn's always been a real big on positioning, but
The corn dragon
everything's based around that.
It's usually. I mean, it's already 3-up save if I remember correctly. So
Yep.
I mean, and I think it can deep strike, redeploy, one of those two. So I know that it doesn't have a way to fly or something like that. I thought.
No, it just moves pretty quick. I mean, other than that, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have any kind of redeploy here.
Okay. Well, either way, I mean, it's still like a massive thing. You just put it wherever it needs to, and it's got control of it. And the only way to get rid of it is by killing it. So, I don't know if it's. I mean, you can still play it back too if there's you're trying to wait for the right moment because it's got that battle shock thing that it can help with.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. I mean, with Blood Tithe, you got some stuff there. I would just, rather than the Wrathmongers and the Blood Crushers, I would like to see 2 more Slaughter Priests in there so you can get, what do you call it, Bronze Flesh and Resanguination, so that you have some prayers to heal that thing and make it save better to keep them around, because it is the army. Like, the Corn Dragon is the army, so you should be buffing that up as much as you possibly can.
The Corn Dragon does have a deep strike.
Does it?
Yep. Yeah, you can set it up to the you can put it to the side and basically set it. It has the 9-inch deploy thing. Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I was like, I thought it did. I mean, I don't know why you would, because it's such a massive base that it's so easy to block it off. I mean, so you can be 15 inches away and the thing can't come down on the board edge. So it's a little tricky, but I mean, just the idea that you can set it up to the side is like really crazy. So okay.
But I mean, you can't even bring it in till turn 2 if you do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, like, if you're worried about getting shot off the board, because it can die. I mean, 35 wounds, but with all the ranged mortals and stuff, like, maybe there's some play there, but it's just the idea that, like, it's you can't really ignore it easily, in my opinion.
I think as a Corn Dragon, if he's bringing that, he's coming to have fun. He doesn't care. Like, I think there's just a little bit more that you could tech into this if you wanted to really base your army around it. Like, Gortide's not doing a whole lot. He does have, I guess, you could launch some Blood Reavers screaming across the board. But other than that, Gortide's not really going to help you. You got a reroll of wounds of 1, wholly within 12 of an objective. There's some little buffs in there for Gortide, but
it'll help with the magic too. There's a lot of magic going to this tournament, so that -3 to casting is pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah.
So, but I agree.
I mean, it's some Hex Scourger Skulls in there.
Well, you know, when your opponent rolls like when they're fighting you, then it's almost an auto include at that point.
I mean, I think they are in every corner list.
Cool. Well.
All right.
So.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Up next is my list, Nighthawk.
All right. Well, walk us through it.
Well, it's my first time bringing Nighthawk to a tournament. I've only had them for a little over a week now, so it's Emerald Host. So pick a enemy hero, -1 to save for the game, and then running the Dolores Guard, which is basically the old Emerald Host White Dwarf battalion. So when my Hex Race charge in the Emerald Host, they're getting +1 attack when they charge, and they also have a 2-up wound. They can take the wound from a hero when they're within 3 inches of them. So
Didn't Emerald Host always already give you that, or no?
Yes, so that is doubling down. The Hex Race still do that. The battalion does the exact same thing as Emerald Host. It's just essentially when the Hex Race charge, they're getting +2 attacks to their
Nice.
profile. So and then
So 4 extra attacks.
Yeah.
That mounts too.
Yes, and then I'm trying to stack it with the Knight of Shrouds. So if I get lucky and I make that 10+ charge, I'm at 180 attacks, with 90 of those being 6s to hit, do mortal wounds. So it's I'm sure it'll go off at least once. That's the turn.
Yeah,
That's what I want.
10 skinks.
Yeah. Yep. Well, then I can pile in and
Not
swing
everybody
again.
has 10 skinks.
Yep.
But
And then I got the 20 Blade Geist Revenants. So same thing there. You got
Oh yeah, Blade Guys are cool.
yeah, they when they charge, they get +1 attacks, so they're 3 attacks each at that point, so 20 block and 60 attacks, and everything's just. I noticed the ethereal is like becoming more and more effective because there's just so much rendering now, and the thing is they're fast. Everything about this list is just moving fast, hitting hard, or failing the charge, and then nothing happens. So it's either one of my most competitive lists or one of my most narrative lists. So we'll find out.
yeah, it's Nighthawk in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Can you roll a big charge?
It's like it plays very similar to like my BCR list where it just
you get that black coach if you get it powered up, running and charging on turn 1. Like there's some.
haven't got it yet, but yeah, I mean the idea is I haven't really had to because the movement is already 14, and then you put it within that range of the Spirit Torment for that Pendant of the Fellwind, it gets +3, so it's already moving 17 inches. That's usually on these 24 inches, or some of them have been 18 inches away.
18, yeah.
Yeah, like you're getting wherever you need to in most cases. Unless they deploy on the backboard, you're usually right where you need to be. So
yeah, super cool.
Yep, it's pretty fun. It's really nice because it's really just I painted it all ethereal, and the whole ethereal is really how it is, and yeah.
So
I like
Cage, is that the fight last?
Yep, that's the fight last one.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's
super cool.
That's it. I'm it's interesting. I'm not the only one running Nighthawk, so it'll be interesting if I get matched up against someone who's played Nighthawk quite a bit more times than I have. So.
Yeah, well, Trevor's going to be there with his, and he's very familiar with it.
Yep. So I'm sure I'll make a lot of mistakes. So apologies, everyone, if you catch me making a mistake. I swear I'm not cheating. Just correct me. So, but yeah, that's it. And then up next is Gavin's list. You wanna?
Yeah, narrative.
Feel free
bad.
to walk us through.
Looks boring.
Next.
Is this exactly the same as the other ones?
No, it's got 15 Bloodstalkers instead of 15 Blood Sisters. So I got 5 extra shooters instead of the big melee block, but I've still got the 10-man. So big Hagnar, got a lot of the support pieces that make combat better. So yeah, Catechism, Blessing, the Witch Brews, which when everything comes together, it winds up being pretty efficient combat damage, and plus when Shimon. There's a command ability to add 1 to hit rolls. I didn't get a laugh. Wow. Yeah. You don't even entertain me with my Michael Jackson.
Well, you didn't
come
say
on,
it
bro.
right. You got to say, "Come on."
Yeah. But yeah, it's got all this stuff that no one likes to see out of Daughters. I normally wouldn't play it at a local, like super. And it's not something I'm looking to take to every local I ever play. But we have the Atlantic City GT coming up, so I figured it would be probably irresponsible to be playing something else that I'm not going to be playing 3 weeks from now. So try to get a little bit of practice. So see how it goes.
Yeah.
I think it's it's fairly strong. It's all painted up, nice and pretty. So
it'll be interesting to see how it does on these different battle plans.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of lists here that like I consider like maybe bad matchups, so it'll be fun to try and navigate through them as well.
Cool.
Just to see what the list can get done.
All right. Well, moving on, we got hunters, bone reapers that he's planning on running.
All right. I've already looked over the list a good bit. It looks like he listened to our last podcast. I think I made a comment about wanting to see more Death Riders, and he answered the call.
Pat yourself on the back there.
Yeah, 2 more Tech Crawlers, 2 units of Death Riders, Cavalos Lance. Pretty good little list. It'll be fun. Arkan, Leash Cavalos, Suffocating Gravetide. That's cool. 1950 because he's coming for the CP. I mean, he's coming for the Triumph.
Interesting.
He's
Yeah, I mean,
listening.
don't need the CP.
Unfortunately, where he's at with that, like, like 1930 is often where I end on a list with when I'm list building with OBR. So throwing a cheap endless spell in there, and
I assume the Gravetide's for Archon.
Probably for teleporting Archon, yeah. Yep. Archon will cast it, do some damage to himself, teleport himself where he needs to go.
Ryan says he remembered how you called his list trash last time.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean, he knew it. I mean, it was basically his old Petrifex Elite list, but Petrifex Elite didn't exist anymore. So, but I'm glad to see Hunter out again and playing around. You know, he had his baby and it's been pretty busy. But it's Cavalos, Lance. So it's
a lot of Death Riders.
Charge mortals. 20 Death Riders. I like it. My list only has 15. I'm jealous.
That's a lot of stuff.
But a lot of mortals on the charge. A lot of. Let's see what's Arkan. Well, he knows everything, so he didn't have to pick anything. Yeah,
Cavalos.
Pretty cool list. Cavalos is going to ride along with the Death Riders, giving them extra tags, buffing them up.
He's running the battalion, the Cavalos Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. That was fast-moving, hard-hitting, tie you down, hope that you outlast them as far as the objectives.
I don't really like it's the battalion inside Staliarch Lords because it does the same thing pretty much. Like you could mess around with something else with that 120 points.
Might just be to drop the. I mean, it kind of sucks you can't run a second artifact, but I mean, what are you gonna do?
I mean, it drops. That's the thing. The extra command point and getting your drops down. That's the important part, I guess.
Yeah. So okay, cool. Well, let's see. Up next after Hunter, we have Jacob, and Jacob's got Boulderhead.
Oh yeah, this is the old school BCR list. I think all 3 of us have some familiarity with BCR, so it's a good one to talk about. What do you think, Evan? You're a big BCR fan. I know Gavin's on it now.
I mean, it's got. I mean, it doesn't have 6 Stonehorn, so I'm not really too familiar with what's going on here.
Well, he's running the Shimon artifact, the perfect protection, the plate of perfect protection. So he's running almost the old metal, the old crunch horn that used to be ethereal. Now it's just -1 ring.
Yeah. Well, he has the Brandos Vard. He's running the Brandos Vard Black Clatterhorn Huskard.
Yeah, so that's the old murder horn, with that kill thing.
Lord of Beasts, Metal Cruncher. Which Metal Cruncher is good lately. I think it's more so because there's just when they first came out, like everything just had a terrible save, but you were running like nothing but horde armies with terrible saves, and it didn't matter. Where now you're seeing more and more of these 3-up save. Battle line and stuff, and so that Metal Cruncher, people like, in my experience, they usually tend to focus that one, and instead of the Huskard, and the Murder Horn just kind of goes around and once it punches something, it just obliterates it, and that's usually the mistake I see where people focus on the thing that has the Metal Cruncher because they're like, oh, you just do all these mortal wounds, like I'm gonna focus that guy, so. You kind of you have a hammer and you have an anvil, and that's usually the way that I see a lot of people do it.
Yep, so. He's running the Huskard with Alvgar Ancient, Keening Gale, Alvgar.
Yeah, the Thunder Tusk.
Fight last. Yeah, the Huskard on Thunder Tusk, the fight last mount trait, which is cool.
I am surprised to see so many Frost Sabers with no No.
But they're really good for being as
God.
cheap as they are. Like they're just good bodies that army lacks.
Yeah. There's
Like Gavin's
there's a
had some
lot of
success with his.
there's a lot of missions that are just battle line focused. So
Yeah.
having MSU like 40-point battle line is really nice at screening, which the army really needs screening. And then it's also good at backfilling objectives and
Do
just
they
good.
become
You get a lot
battle
of
line?
value
Well, for some reason I
with
thought
a
they're only
hunter
battle line.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not battle line in this particular
Yeah.
list, but
So, because I see he's running the Earl Bad, which is nice. I think it's okay. I unfortunately don't think it'll pay off as much because you're so few attacks for what. Oh wait, is Earl Bad the movement one or the mortal wound one? It's the mortal wound, right?
Yeah, mortals to hit, 6 to hit, I believe. Right?
Wound, right?
Wound?
I think it's wound.
6 is the wound
Yeah.
on the Mornfang.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, on
Don't
everything in the
right.
battalion. But the thing is that that's the problem. I think that so many people pick Earl Bad, and because they're like, oh, mortal wounds. But I feel like unless you're running a lot of Mornfang, it you barely do enough mortals to make it worth it. But I think Yorobad is better if you're just running it for the in this case you're running a Stonehorn Beast Riders Huskered and then only 6 Mornfang. I'd run Yorobad, hope that you get decent rolls on the movement so that you can get up the board quicker. Because your Husker or all your Stonehorns maybe do 8, 10 mortal wounds throughout if they go all 5 rounds total. Just on the wounds, because you're not really, you're just not really doing that, and they bracket.
You're not getting that many hits.
Yeah, exactly. You only have like
4.
8 attacks total, so that's 1 mortal wound per swing. So, just not to me. I don't think it's worth it. I mean, I probably would have run the Yorobad, save the 20 points, drop the Frost Sabers for another. Was that 140, and then you can bring another 2 Mornfang pack for those, which is actually the same wounds. So I mean that's just how I would have run it, but because then you're down to 3 drops at that point. So that's probably how I would have approached it, but I understand where this is going because the more having more units to cover those bases for the objectives is usually where I fall short on that. Because on those lists you're just running up the board trying to kill everything and hope that you get it. So
yeah, it'll be a fun list. Big monsters.
Yeah, I mean I mean you can't go wrong with BCR. I feel like you could throw any of those things together and you're usually doing a pretty solid list because they hit hard. They have and the might makes right is so good.
Yeah, that's good. It'll be fun.
But yeah, and then let's see. So after Jacob, we have James with his Lumineth.
Oh, yeah, we've all seen it by now.
Yeah, I think I'll let you guys explain it. I'm Luminethed out.
It's just a lot of bodies. Like we had a real good game at the Atomic Tournament. I think Gavin had a real good one with him at the Atomic Tournament. I mean, I mean,
really, it's the big. I think the big thing about it is like that Twin Stones when that goes off, everything just snowballs from there. I mean that 30-point endless spell is you could triple the price tag on it, and I still think that it would be one of the best endless spells in the game. And then I don't know,
it's really good.
James, have you added the terrain piece yet? Because it would make your list even crazier if you did.
Nope, he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't.
You don't believe in it?
I don't believe in that stupid terrain piece. That's a crutch.
Oh, okay.
That's
the breaking point. Got it. It's a trap.
It's a good list. It's fun. I mean, it's got the cathalers. You got to be careful. I mean, you got to pay attention to your holy within. And I mean, they like our last game. I think I piled in too close and got myself blown off the board with from killing his units. I mean, just standard. I mean, I think it's a really good list, and I think it's going to give people some trouble. But I think we got enough stuff here coming that could actually challenge it. Those Stonehorns challenge it pretty well, and they move fast enough to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think the key is, he has such great sustain and chip damage on all his wardens and sentinels, and then he just moves up he like slowly like grinds up the board while his cavalry go and take key points and key targets. So then you're
very similar to like old Petrifex,
yeah,
where
exactly.
That's grinding up the board with a couple of 5-man units of Death Riders.
And the thing is, like, they're essentially play the same style in the sense that, they're almost exclusively battle shock immune, and it's worse because if you don't kill the unit and you've lost anything or you've lost anything in that same battle shock phase, as I'm sure you're aware, Brian, then that your unit suffers the brunt of it on a 2-up, which is like insane. So, and then they're making their whatever they need in that scenario, whether it's a +1 save or double movement or +1 to hit, whatever the case is, they usually have a way of getting that target, and the damage that they do from all their attacks is mortals for the most part, at least on the wardens and sentinels, which most armies don't have a way of handling that.
Yeah, a 20 block of wardens will put out a significant amount of mortal wounds.
I mean, everyone wants to look at the sentinels as like these are the things that need to die quickly, but in most cases, it's the wardens that are in the game later on that are doing, like, they charge you, or you think, okay, well, they're breaking Shining Host, they're charging me, but then when they swing and Lumineth swing twice before you get to swing once, they're doing like what? So a 20 block, that's 40 attacks because they're pretty much all guaranteed to get in. So you're talking
it's been like average of
38.
12 mortal wounds.
It's 38 attacks, not including the
12 mortal wounds out of the big block of wardens every time I've been hit by a big block of wardens.
Yeah.
It's been like 12 mortal wounds. It's been a lot.
Well, and Ryan was telling me that you can break Shining Host, attack, and then use that wind magic teleport. I don't think he can do it because he doesn't have a wind mage, but you can teleport them, and when you teleport them, you can put them back down in Shining Host. Even if they broke Shining Host. So it's just probably one of the most solid battle lines in the game. Like you said, they're pretty much like old Petrifex Mortec.
Yeah, they're that level of battle line.
Yeah,
they're good though. We'll see.
Yeah,
James is good with it.
And then
we'll see if anybody can crack that.
Good drop too, because he's running the Aurelian Legion.
Aurelian Legion. Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Well.
And then let's see. So up next we got Justin with what's Justin run? His Iron Jaws, the Draw Crusher, right?
The Draw Crusher is in the house.
So looking pretty good. We've seen this list at the GT, and I think the last 2 tournaments he won the last Fat Ogre tournament actually with it, if I remember correctly, or technically won. One on a technicality. So, but yeah, 2 mega bosses, or 2 war chanters. I think it. Did he have 2 war chanters beforehand? Maybe he switched that up slightly. I can't.
I think he switched it up because I think he had a. If I'm not mistaken, he had a Weird Knob Shaman or whatever it is with the caster with the Fist of Gork or whatever.
That's right. Yeah, it sounds familiar. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, still the same kind of thing with the 6 Gore-Gruntas, the 3 Gore-Gruntas, and the 5 Brutes. So really
he's running Iron Fist this time. He's actually running a battalion.
Well, and he's in Iron Suns instead of not running anything.
Oh yeah, that's what he did. He went to Iron Suns.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that like it's the same beats though that you're trying to do. You just kind of run them up the board and kill everything.
What's the Sunblessed Armor do? I can't remember. Is that a mortal wound save
or? Shoot. I have no idea. I can look it up real quick while you guys talk about something else.
Yeah, I don't remember what that one does, but get him beat, fix him beat. What those do. Weird and 4+ magic negate. Meaning.
It like reduces rend or is +1 save.
Yeah, Kyle's saying it's -1 run.
Is that ignores
or reduce rend by
rend
one.
by one?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
it's great. And,
that's pretty cool.
well, and especially since we well, are the War Chanters wizards? Can they cast spells?
No.
No. Okay. I was like, this would have been the perfect one because we're running 2 Realm of Metal games, so you can and put those on the Maw Crushers.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's cool. I mean, he'll probably go, 0-3-0. He'll probably or 0-3. He'll probably get him 3 draws this weekend.
I was like, 0-3-0. That's a pretty bold statement right out of the gate. No, I mean it hits. Like if he gets in, decides to actually, go in and hit it, it's gonna. There's definitely not gonna be a draw once he gets into combat. So.
Yeah. Show if he decides to pull the trigger.
Buying an extra CP. I don't know what the total points is, so I'm not sure if he gets anything out of it. I don't think it's a full 2,000, if I remember correctly. So cool. But after Justin, we got Kevin running Bone Reapers.
What's Kevin running this week?
He's running an Archon and Nagash.
Oh, Archon and Nagash.
I guess he's trying to get Nagash. Well, I mean, so doesn't Nagash go up in points this weekend? Isn't that the thing?
No, not till it goes. He's got one last ride with 880 Nagash.
Well, I was like, I'm pretty sure doesn't the book come out this weekend? So I don't know.
Kevin, your list is
it's illegal.
Redo it, man.
Yep.
It's illegal. You got to drop one of them 20 blocks of Mortec.
It's
a cool list. Suffocating Gravetide for he's got the same idea with teleporting. This is a similar idea to what I had when I bought mine to Gash, and he came up with the idea. I stole it right out of him. When he came up with his Suffocating Gravetide and teleporting, so you can charge in there and do some damage with Nagash and teleport him out if it's dangerous, that kind of thing. You can't do it in the same turn, but
well, he's running Crematorians too, so a lot of blowing up mortal wounds on the
and
guard.
He can hide Nagash in a corner and then Suffocating Gravetide him up and make a charge that way.
Yep. I'm surprised the Nightmare Predator is being run. Is that wonder if there's something.
So that's the one where you pick a hero when you cast it, and it does like D3 mortals to everything it flies over. But when it finally gets to that one target, it does D6 mortals to it.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out. With that one, it's going to be -1 to cast, which isn't a problem with all the stuff that he's doing. And I think once again, I mean, it'll be good because with Realm of Metal, you can make one of these units. There's no wrong unit that he can choose to get the +1 save on.
Yeah. And he's got 12 arcane bolts if he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So he can just straight up just arcane bolt something off the board. So if you got
machine gun it.
Mm-hmm. And then he can combo that with Suffocating Gravetide and teleport our Nagash into range of arcane bolt.
Well, and you got to make sure you kill the. I think that's the thing. The last couple times I played him, because I played him at the last 2 tournaments, and he always had the 20 block of Mortec with the harvesters. But then the weakness with those harvesters is that if you have a shooting arm, you can just snipe them out, and now that key component is gone. But in this one, you have Archon and Nagash doing resurrects, if I remember correctly. So it's like if you don't kill these, you're not getting rid of Nagash most likely unless you just have overwhelming force to take him out. But if you're gonna focus the Mortec guard, you have to make sure every single one of those guys is gone. Otherwise, you're gonna have at least 6 of them come back. So
in every unit, and then it's a good way to keep his Death Riders alive because he'll put basically 2 Death Rider bases back in the unit if you don't kill it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really another list that you're just going to see them grind their way up the board and there you can't you almost. I think the big weakness, of course, in this one is going to be range, but ranged mortals especially, because if you fight them, if you try to fight those Mortek Guard and melee, you're going to be doing a ton of mortal wounds to yourself, and then he's just going to keep resurrecting them, and it's just like, is it? They're running the blade and stuff, so their rend is going to be, they got the -1 rend on there already, so it's really going to be, and like you said, everything that you have is going to get shotgunned to death with or like machine gunned with arcane bolts. So
Yep.
that's going to be real tough to get past, and we'll see how. And good luck if you have
very
magic, by the
similar
way.
to that one that they advertised, I think early on when Bone Reapers dropped, was Arkan's Wild Ride, whereas the Arkan and Crematorians, but the only difference is he's got Nagash in here versus a Harvester and a bigger unit of
Yeah.
Mortek.
I think the Harvesters would do good in that as well, but Nagash is like, he's not really getting off of the board, so the idea that, it'll be cool because
Nagash and Arkan, you'll put plenty back in there.
there's a ton of magic in this tournament, so good luck having a magic army against this, because he's gonna be able to unbind, or like attempt to unbind every single one of your spells. So it's gonna be interesting.
Well, JTJ is in the chat asking if anything that justifies the point increase. From what I've heard, the Arcane Bolt is going to be increased from 1 mortal wound or D3 mortal wounds to D3 mortal wounds or D6 mortal wounds. So that would alone probably justify it. Like, if you can do 8 shots of possibly D6 mortal wounds.
Yeah, well, with the +3, you're half the time getting that 10+. I think it just depends, because as of right now, I don't see a justification whatsoever. I mean, I was one of the ones that thought they should have bumped him down to 800 points.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any. I'm just kind of grasping for straws on why he got increased so much.
Well, I mean, because it's like we get 1 update with them and like 2 updates with Luminescence in that meantime, and it's like, yeah, everything's good here.
Yeah, and Trevor said possibly because of the extra lore that he's gained, but
I don't know, because the thing is his War Scroll doesn't say that he knows both at the same time, so it's not like he takes OBR with him. Well, I mean, we don't know that for sure, but I sincerely doubt that they made it so that he takes OBR spells with him. So he only knows all the lore in one book or the other, and that's I would not say that's a good idea. Like, I wouldn't say that's worth a justification of point increase.
But D6, 8 times D6 on a 10+ when he's getting +3 to cast is.
Well, yeah, everything in 18 inches would be dead. So. Well, and plus, I mean, not only that, I mean, you're talking with and this is all rumors, but I mean, if you get the Mystic Shield, too, I mean, he can cast Mystic Shield 8 times, and it's a +1 save. And then he uses his command ability. Now they're re-rolling save rolls of 1. So no matter what faction you're running in, now your Mortek Guard are 3-up saves re-rolling once. Which is from what we've seen is ridiculously good in the idea of 3.0, where you can only benefit from 1 save. So.
Or 1 buff or debuff.
Or yeah, one buff or debuff in that case. So it should. I think it's like maybe they're thinking out ahead of time, but it just right now I don't see the justification for it.
Well, it'll be good to see it, Kevin. Happy to see you bringing the big
absolutely.
boy out for one last ride.
Corn Dragon, Nagash, like we got a lot of good stuff coming out here. A lot of big stuff. So up next we have Kyle Corcoran.
Kyle Valdez or
Corcoran? Yep, he's running Zinch. Host Arcanum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Stupid ass pinks.
This one is so this one's all about the spellcasting. From we talked a little bit about the list. It's just 64 wounds, nothing to be worried about there. But yeah, it's a similar list to what I ran at the last tournament. with Zinch. It just instead of Host Arcanum, I was running Guild of Summoners, but it's like at least 12 spells if I remember correctly, and it's all magic damage. Even you're throwing Geminids out there, Umbral Spell Portal, because Kairos has his spell, which is just straight up 6 mortal wounds. So you have a 36-inch 6 mortal wound spell. And then, you have all these other spells, Blue Scribes, all that. And then really the big thing is the fun thing, the aspect to it is Darkfire Demon Rift. So you throw that out there from one of the... And also I forgot to mention the Gaunt Summoners are summoning 10 more pinks total. So you add another 10 pinks to that list. So, between that, you have the Darkfire Demon Rift, though. You throw it out there, and anything that's... You do D3 mortal wounds for everything it passes over. But you add 1 to the spell to the number of mortal wounds for every wizard and endless spell within a distance of it. So you could easily do 10 mortal wounds if you have your stuff all together. You just have to be insanely careful because you can also get hit with all that stuff. Which is what happened to me when I was fighting James. I got hit with my own endless spell and took 7 mortals on 3 of my units. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where like if you're we have a lot of charge armies in this. So imagine a Maw Crusher getting in there, and then you throw out that Demon Rift spell, you hit it, and you're doing D3 plus 10 mortals. It's like, that's ridiculous. It's one of those things that I don't think they thought it out when they made that endless spell for that you can ally it in and then bring it in Zinch.
Yeah, it was meant to operate in Slave to Darkness.
Yeah.
Just the same. It's the same issue with Warp Lightning Vortex and KO.
Yeah.
It's the same issue. Like, it wasn't designed to play with that army. So,
but that
there's going to be.
And the thing is too is you can set it up in a way too where you have to be very careful. I think a lot of people underestimate Kairos's that one dice change, because unless you have a significant way to have bonuses to charge, if you, let's say the Corn Dragon gets up in there and it's only it's like 6 inches away, you can potentially Kairos can make that charge fail by just changing one of those dice rolls to a 1, and you can't modify it any further. And so there's plenty of ways, in deep striking too, you can guarantee it fails if you just change it to a 1. And now your units are just sitting there, and your plan kind of fell apart, and then he can throw, all his stuff is shooting and magic. So you better hope you have some way to stop that, because it's gonna hurt. So when I did this list, I was easily putting out 20 plus mortal wounds in my magic phase. So
nice.
It's a very it's a list that I think you can underestimate really easily just by looking at it. So, but it's Kyle Corcoran that we're talking about here, so he can fail all his spells.
He'll roll, man.
He averages out the list. Okay, so up next we got Valdez. So.
All right, now we need to decide. Now that I've paid attention to like Nagash is going to be here, I would like to see one last run of Archaon versus Nagash. What do you guys think?
I don't care either way. I mean, I more or less want to see his new models. But
I'd rather see them when he gets them painted. Hey, Kyle, you're in the chat. Are those Slanesh conversions that you made? Are those painted yet?
I see him in the chat.
Did he leave?
No, I mean it depends, because like I think Slanesh is gonna be. He says they're not painted.
Okay. Well, my vote's on Archaon. I want to see Archaon and Nagash one more time. And in fact, y'all should grudge each other and play each other turn 1 or round 1.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
I mean, he's still running Slanesh on those. He's still got the Bliss Barb Seekers. So, yeah, I can allow that to happen. I mean, as long as he's okay with running Archaon again, like, it's gonna suck if he fights the corn dragon and instantly Slayer Kings is the corn dragon.
Well, it'll suck for the corn dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Like, all right. Well, he seems to want the corn dragon anyway, or the Archaon anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, bring your Archaon out, dude. Bring it out.
Okay, so we got Slaves of Darkness then, Host of the Ever Chosen, the Sixth Circle with Archaon, and he's running. It looks like everything is Slanesh. I don't see it
He's running
actually.
Slanesh Mark.
I see some things marked Slanesh, but not everything. I assume everything's marked Slanesh. So.
Flails on the Marauders. That's a bold move.
Yeah.
I guess you're
3 Vanguard.
I guess you're banking it on getting more attacks out of them.
A lot of weird stuff. Like.
No, I mean I'm looking at the flails. You can get a lot of attacks with the flails, and when you mark them Slanesh, they're going to explode and do, extra attacks on 6s. It's a cool play. I mean,
Kyle, are you having a stroke right now?
What the fuck? No flails. It says flails. Did you mean shields? Okay, cool. So no flails. I mean, I could see the logic on flails, but okay, no flails.
So I'm very interested to see why he allied in the Blitzbarb Seekers, because with the Slanesh mark, isn't it charge based, or is it?
Well, the army. Oh, that's not the archers, huh?
That is the archers.
Okay.
The Slick Blade Seekers are the 200.
I know why. Because he doesn't want to get Cathalered for 4 rounds again. He wants to be able to reach out and try to kill a hero with something.
Fair enough.
It's a good play. I see it. Like, nothing like bringing your 800-point model to the middle of the table and fighting something one time, and then your opponent's speed of hishes his little bitch-ass Cathaler over there.
That's right, Trevor. I'm sorry, Kyle. Like, you can't change your list. It's already been submitted, man. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess that's smart. I didn't think about that because, like I have 10 Seekers. I gave them both weapon profiles because I expect them to change drastically with their profiles eventually. But they actually can potentially do a good amount of damage. Problem is you got 2 Cathalers to go up against. So if you're talking about goading arrogance, then you're fine because there is no goading arrogance.
I was just thinking there's any kind of pain in the rear kind of
backline hero
with a small hero.
Yeah,
just get it off the board.
Yeah, no goading arrogance this game or this tournament. So, but you still got the other stuff, but that's bravery based. You should be fine. So.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, the whole army's battle shock immune while Archaon's on the board, so he doesn't have to worry about getting battle shock.
Right. Yeah.
Cool list, Kyle.
Vanguard. What's the Vanguard equipped with? Is he running the scrolled weapons or the lances?
His sorcered weapons has been his thing. It's kind of better with exploding 6s, more attacks.
Yeah.
2 damage on the charge. It's just they're good.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're saying the Marauder Horsemen are using the javelins instead of the axes and shield. Dude, what happened to your list, man?
I see that he's learning. Look what spell he has on Archaon this
time. Mask of Darkness.
Yes. You need to be able to teleport him when your sorcerer's dead. You need to still have your teleport if they kill your sorcerer. That's a good play, Kyle.
Cool. Well, glad we got that squared away. I'm sure you can. That's a weight off your shoulder. Dang, look at the chat. Kyle is just like bombarding the chat. All right, so Ringer list. Ringer. You want to explain this?
I'll go over
abomination.
Is it an abomination? Is it really like it's 14 drops?
I certainly haven't seen it before, so that's either a good thing or a bad thing.
No, it's not good. Like it. I mean, it's gonna camp its deployment zone, and hang out there until it does enough damage to you or you kill it. Like it doesn't move fast. I mean, it's got a Griffin and it's got some Shadow Warriors and a couple of units of Demigryph Knights. But for the main thing, it's going to have 40 Free Guild Guard with the handgunners and the volley guns behind it, with the general and the cogsmith sitting there buffing that stuff, and it's just going to kind of sit there for a while until it does enough damage to push out and maybe score objectives. We can use the Shadow Warriors to steal objectives. Use the Griffin and the Demigryphs to kind of clear the line if the shield wall holds on the Free Guild Guard, and you come up and clear things with the Griffin and then the Demigryph Knights. Or you can reach out and go out and grab objectives with them real quick. They double fight, so they can fight at the end of combat with the Free Guild or with the Griffin's command ability. Or no, that's the Hammerhall. It's a Hammerhall command ability. In your enemies, wholly within your enemy territory, you can fight at the end of combat. So you can fight twice with a unit. It's going to generate a CP on a 6 for every banner in the army, or every unit with a banner in the army. At the beginning of the hero phase, I roll a die for each one and get an extra command point, which is kind of important since I made the Free Guild General on Griffin the general instead of the Free Guild General. Typically, the way I worked this is I had the Free Guild General with Academy Prodigy, so that he generated an extra CP right off the bat, and then the Cogsmith became the Adjutant and generated another on a 4+. Because the army's very command point heavy, you're going to have the Free Guild General's command ability to, give everything that doesn't move +1 to hit and wound. So,
what's with the Shadow Warriors?
It's just they're there. I've always had them. What they do is they start off the board and they can deep strike. And if they come they deep strike wholly within a terrain piece or into cover, they get +1 to hit that turn. So they come in. They got some decent shooting. It's 10 shots. I think it's like 3s and 3s, -1/1 damage shooting.
Pretty good. I think it'll be surprisingly. Maybe you're overcompensating for going 3-0 at the last local, but or with the ringer list. But I think it still has some play. I think it'll at least.
Well, it's an army that I've had painted and done since almost like right after the Cities of Sigmar book dropped, but I leaned back into Slaves of Darkness because by the time this was finished and ready to go on a table, the Slaves of Darkness stuff dropped, and I was heavily into that last year.
Yeah, I was like, this is the first time I've even seen this list on yours, so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun list. Like I said, it's 14 drops. It's 2,000 points on the nose. I'm not going to get a triumph. I'm never going to decide who's going first.
Yeah. 158
so,
wounds is pretty good though. With that much shooting is not bad.
A lot of the wounds are in those 40 Free Guild, which are, they're not terrible. Those Free Guild Guard, they're sitting there with a 4+ save and Battle Shock immunity wholly within my territory.
That's pretty big.
Tough.
Yeah.
They're tough. It's a tough army.
Okay.
I don't think it's good by any means. I think every list that I've seen here should be able to beat it.
I don't know, man. I feel like if you start rolling like you supposedly did last time, we might be in trouble.
Well, see, I can't, because if I roll too good on like, and Gavin and I were talking about it last night, like with those the volley guns, they get you choose if you want 1d6, 2d6, or 3d6 shots, but if you roll a double on any of those 2 or 3 dice that you roll, it takes a mortal wound and can't shoot that turn. So, and I'm going big.
Rolling 3 every time, right?
Yep, every time. Well, I do get to re-roll those dice with a Cogsmith there. I can re-roll any number of those dice if they're within range of the Cogsmith.
Oh, that's
so
pretty
I
good.
can get around it. But max is like 15 shots out of one of them at best, But it's not likely,
Yeah, Adrian, we did cover one Iron Jaw list. There was only one that showed up as the Iron Suns list that Justin's bringing. So, but all
But
right.
it should be an easy thing to crack. I mean, if you can punch through those 40 free gold guard, which most armies aren't going to have trouble doing, they'll be able to tear the army apart.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like the only way you can kind of lose to it is if like you get lucky and you're sniping out all their key targets with the artillery, and that because it's what -1 Ren D3 damage.
No, those are the volley guns. They're just -1/1 damage.
Oh, okay. So you're running the bad
it's not
version.
The Hellblaster rocket batteries.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
All right. I was gonna say, I'm like, hey, you got 3 of those. Those are pretty good, but yeah.
No,
okay.
it's not the good shooting one. Like, there's another variant of this list that runs the rockets.
Oh
versus
yeah,
the
I know that
volley
one.
guns.
So all right. Well, so after you, we only got one more list left, and it's actually Trevor with his Nighthawk list. So.
Nice. Well,
Oh gosh.
take us through it.
So he is also running Emerald Host. But he has Lady Olander. Like 5 heroes. Spirit Torment, Dreadblade Hero, Knight of Shrouds, and the new hero, the Crusader. Which honestly, the Crusader, like, I undervalued his skill, but then when I see that you can make that 5-up or go that 6-up Feel No Pain go to a 5-up Feel No Pain, that it's actually really good when he's following around with big units. I mean, even like Chain
like
Rasp.
a 30 block of chain.
Yeah, you got like
yeah,
exactly. You can make those things 5-up save on because they're ethereal, and then you got a 5-up Feel No Pain after that. So then, I mean, and he's running Hex Race, which of course is perfect. He's running Death Riders, which so it's very similar to my list. In fact, he's got 20 Revenants as well, so it's very similar to my list. The big thing is that his Death Riders battalion, when he does his charge, it's a 9+ instead of a 10+ to fight in the charge phase. So this is like, from what I understand, the way that Nighthawk had been run for quite a while leading up to this, and then Emerald Host just makes it even better with the Hex Race because they get that additional attack, and then with the Knight of Shrouds,
you don't have to go so hard in the Dolorous Guard.
Right. Yeah. Mine is like go for broke kind of thing, where this one is you can deep strike that stuff instead of having to run it up the board like I do, and that 9, you only have to make a 9, so it goes from a 16.7% chance to just a straight up 25% chance to make that charge, or make that fight in the combat phase. So if you're doing that with these 3 units, you have like a 60+% chance of making one of them at least get it, which is huge. I mean, you only need to have one make it to really count.
Mm-hmm.
So preferably you want the Hex Race to do it, but I mean, I don't know. You roll good enough on that Black Coach, it could be pretty nasty.
Yeah, I mean, if that unit of Hex Race gets in, it's going to do more than just... It's going to do its damage, and if it fights twice, it's going to tear something open. And then on your turn, you got to deal with those. Instead of making any kind of momentum and making any kind of offensive plays on the board, you got to deal with 10 Hex Race in your face first.
Yep.
So it's cool. It'll jam you up in your deployment zone, and it'll make you stay there for a long time, while having a 30 block of Chain Rasp spread out, grabbing every dang objective on the board. So
yeah, I mean it's
cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot more tanking potential than you would think just by looking at it. So, and then he's got plenty of that's the thing too. He's running Shade Mist on his Spirit Torment. His Dreadblade has the Pendant of the Fellwind, so the +3 movement. So it's very fast. I mean, it's like I'm almost looking like a slightly different version of my build. It's just he does have Lady Olander in there as well to provide those extra mortals and spellcasting. So,
yeah, it'll jam you up pretty good.
Yep. So, and plus the Resurrection, like he's actually going to have a little more sustain on his. So Lady Olander, I think she has a bring back 1 model ability within a certain distance of her, and then of course the Black Coach can stack on top of that. So it's got a pretty good amount of play, especially if he groups up. And the Blade Geist, you have to kill those 10 blocks, otherwise he's going to retreat and charge them and slingshot them off somewhere else. So
Hmm.
that's the big thing about those guys. But yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it. I think that covers all the lists. So I guess do you guys have a predictions as far as who you think most likely will, or which list you think will most likely have a good chance of doing it?
Well, Andrew's Dracothian Tail, both of the Dracothian Tail lists, depending on, Andrew plays his very well, depending on how the other guy plays. Those are really good options. Gavin's Hagnar, I personally know how it's very similar to my list. I know what it's capable of. Um, James has always got a shot in there with that list that he brings is really tough, and Kyle's got a good list, but he'll find a way to screw it up because it's the Outlaw list.
uh, I mean, it.
Nighthunt's gonna win. That's what's happening. Nighthunt's winning.
Night Hunt for the win. That's
There,
what you
Yeah,
think?
I mean,
Nighthunt's winning.
what, like a quarter of the list going are deaths, which is unusual. Usually, we're lucky to have anyone outside of Kevin running death.
Everyone's got the
No, I agree,
everyone's got the
James. I think you should bring it.
death fever
Yep.
because of the Grave Lords, I think, and then everyone kind of knows that third edition's coming, and hopefully Death can get some more play than it has had in most of 2.0.
Yeah, maybe Cities of Sigmar will too. Now that we
Not
got
since
some
the
actual
beginning, right?
battalions worth using.
Yeah.
Well, and OBR, I guess. Can't forget OBR. That was a strange time too. Literally, like every other army I was running across was OBR.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's gonna provide. It looks like there's gonna be a great variation, and the way they're kind of reworking some of these armies with not doing huge changes, but just slightly tweaking them, I think is actually doing quite well. I mean, even Nighthawk looks like that Emerald Host got quite a bit of buff just from that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with if the rule changes are correct, I mean, you can't stack all these ridiculous +2, +3 saves on things anymore. So that -1 save just from the allegiance ability is going to be much more impactful than one would think right now.
It'd be cool to see what all the little changes are, what rumors are true, which ones aren't.
Yeah. Is there any rumors
How
that
everything shakes out.
is there any rumors you guys think that like are the most likely to happen versus some that are a little more outlandish?
I mean the confirmed ones. There's
Right.
4 battalions.
Well, I still think we're up in the air on that one as far as what are they doing with the old stuff. They keep adding these new battalions, but are they
Yeah.
what
But I think
what's their intentions
they're
with
adding
them?
core ones for sure, and who
Yeah.
knows what they're doing with.
Well, and I hope that
The word on the street is that the battalions are going away. So,
yeah,
I mean,
it'll be interesting to see because I I think it'll make it. I mean, it's gonna change up the way the meta works. I think, just in my opinion on that, but I won't go into too much detail on how I think it'll do that. I
Well,
mean, you're
it'll
still
shake
gonna
it up pretty
see,
good. I mean,
yeah,
you got a lot of factions out there that have really good war scrolls, that have some really good synergies, but don't ever
they
see
have
play
that
because
terrible
they
battalion.
can't. They
Yeah.
have like Hammerhall could be
Well, yeah,
have
I
some
mean,
play. I know
I feel like
they
OBR is
can't
in
have a
a similar
battalion.
boat, even where like OBR, you're bringing these battalions, and sometimes they're not even they're cheap. I mean, that's good, I guess, but like they're not worth it in my opinion for what you're bringing in, and they usually only
Well, I
have
would
like
like
two or
to
three units.
see a points overhaul in some of these factions, like OBR. Like OBR
I
seems to me like it was pointed based on Petrifex Elite, and then they took Petrifex Elite away and kept everything pointed higher. Like a 3-man unit of Stalkers is not worth that amount of points. A
Well,
2-man
and the
unit
thing is,
of
they already did drop them, and they're
Harbingers.
still not good enough for a huge amount of play. From what
Mm-hmm.
or at least I haven't seen a whole lot of plays with it.
Well, I'm gonna play them because I
Yeah,
want to see them. I want to see them. I like instead of having a centerpiece model, I'll have Arkin, which he's going to be built up pretty well and be a nice centerpiece. But I will everything on the table is going to be big with Death Riders and Liege Cavalos and the Harbingers. How I'm doing the basing, but I they're just awkwardly pointed to the point where you're usually left with like 90 to 7,
Well,
70 to 90 points left over, and nothing good to kind of fill that void with.
and Adrian's saying that he thinks they're gonna pump up a bunch of destruction and kind of nerf some of the other stuff. Which I mean, I'm not gonna say no to that because like I think that order and chaos kind of need to be just leveled out a little bit. But I think if battalions do go away,
Destruction's already strong.
You're already gonna see that happen though, because I mean, look at Zinj for example. You remove Change Host, and that's a huge nerf right there. Just because you're still got these incredible war scrolls and stuff, but ultimately that 9-drop or that 1-drop battalion is usually enough to dictate the turn order, which is massive for some of the and plus the teleport every turn is also crazy.
Well, yeah, because it just pins you in your deployment zone. And
yeah, you're stuck there with a bunch of pinks staring at you. Yeah,
firing over the top.
It's really tough to get around that. So just taking that away from them, and they're already a pretty slow moving army. That does well. They can be a slow moving army. Pinks won't be so dependable anymore. Where now you just bring a max 20 block, throw it up there, and string it out, and then just make sure you have enough CP to stop it while everything else just shoots and takes the objectives. So I feel like destruction is kind of in a good spot right now. I feel like Gloomspite gets, they're going to get I mean, they pretty much confirmed it already that they're going to be getting some kind of buff or like update in Kragnos. And then Kragnos...
Yeah, destruction's already really good. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
well...
I'm not saying it's not, that it's
I think...
shit in the game.
Yeah, Ryan and I were talking about it, and I think it's going to be that, their update for Gloomspite gets is probably the same thing they did with Nighthawk, where they're just moving all the White Dwarf stuff and make it official in the Kragnos book. So that way it's, like Emerald Toast was a White Dwarf thing, and now they're just going to make it an actual, like, official thing in Kragnos, which is fine because, honestly, it's a huge improvement. There's some slight tweaking I'd like to see, but...
Like, how do you buff destruction further? Like,
well, Kragnos himself is going to be in the book.
He will be a buff.
Yeah,
yes.
and
but
then...
I'm saying, like, what buffs are they lacking? What does destruction not do that it wants to do? Like,
probably ranged mortals, right? Like, isn't that the thing that everyone else has?
That's what they're lacking.
And bravery immunity, maybe.
But not everyone has that. Like,
no,
but like bravery immunity is okay, but you have several ways of regeneration that those other armies that have that bravery immunity don't have.
Well, yeah, because normally the trade-off is you're running an insane model count with most of those armies, whether it's Gits or
and you kind of
orcs.
do have bravery immunity, like you kind of have access to that.
Potentially, yeah. It's kind of tricky. I feel like it depends on how it's being played because I feel like I think the biggest thing is Forge Worlds. If they remove the models, there's a lot of lists, especially like because I have every destruction army, and I feel like a lot of my lists get hit pretty hard by Rogue Idols, the Troll Hag, and some of the other stuff that are going away. It's gonna make it a little more tricky for some of they're gonna have to find a solution to do it, and I don't feel like Kragnos is just an easy entrance fix for that because we don't even know how Kragnos really works with other armies. If he's like, I think the big difference is Kragnos going to have all the keywords? If he has all the keywords of all the destruction factions, and like Archaon does, then it's going to be insane. But if he's just like a regular, like it's what is it, the typical Mega Gargant that you ally in or something like that, you're not going to see a much play in it other than narrative stuff, unless he's just incredibly good by himself. But if he gets the keywords like Archaon, then you'll see some crazy...
Well, what we've seen so far, he seems really good. He's a big beat stick, but I don't, like you said, I don't know if he gets those synergies.
I mean, that's the problem, though. Like, do we need another big beat stick thing in Destruction? And I don't think that's...
Hey, Adrian, if you don't mind, could you clarify in the chat what do you mean by buffs? What buffs do they not have that you think they should get? Because, I mean, if battalions go away and we go to core battalions, most of...
That's a huge part. That is a huge buff right there. Because I feel like Destruction, they don't have any crazy good battalions that we can name off of the top of our heads. I mean, shoot, Sons of Behemoth doesn't even have a battalion. Them getting one, even if it's just a cheap battalion, to make them a lower drop is going to be a buff right there, even if it doesn't do anything. So, uh, and being able to bring an extra artifact and all that stuff will be pretty good. So, I think it's just, and plus there's rumors that there's another destruction army. I mean, this is more out there, but if another destruction army came into play, then you have yet another layer to destruction. Destruction's like perfectly, like if you have a sandwich that's the tier, destruction is literally all the meat inside. They're constantly center of the line where they can swing up and swing down, just like any other faction.
Yeah, I think destruction is not in a bad place.
They're the most average competitive.
Fantastic. The Warclan book is fantastic. The Gits with the White Dwarf updates have gotten really good. They got hit hard at the beginning of the year, or when the GHB dropped, when they lost all their endless spell spam. But then they came back screaming hard with the White Dwarf stuff.
Well, okay, so the buffs going away though isn't a huge thing, because the buffs aren't going away. The buffs are being limited. So you can't. It actually helps destruction because, like, for example, when you're fighting Lumineth, it's very common that you're fighting whatever you get into is at least -1 to hit, and I say at least because normally it's more than that. That they're stacking multiple buffs, they're stacking multiple saves and everything. In this case, you can only stack a maximum of 1 debuff and 1 buff. So it actually helps because you can't.
And it's very specific. Nothing that the War Chanter does.
Yeah.
Because the War Chanters give you more damage. They give you bigger running charges. Bigger charges. Like the War Chanter buffs.
Well, I mean, but
go.
I don't think any buffs like that are disappearing. If the Rogue Idol goes away, then the synergy between the Big Wa suffers a little bit. But that's if you're talking about like Maw Crushers and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything that changes. If anything, you'll actually see more improvement because you can't. If you're fighting something, you can't fight something that's like a 1-up save anymore because they keep stacking all these pluses to save. So
you're like Gits. I guess Gits maybe suffer a little bit because they lived with a whole lot of -1 to hit.
Yeah, well, yeah, you would stack them. Yeah, they lose quite a bit, but I think that's why they're getting updated in the Kragnos book. I feel like they're going to tweak that a little bit because really, with the ranged mortals that we've been seeing, that hasn't mattered much anyways. They've been better into other destruction armies. They're not in the meta. I mean, it's like, okay, well, but yeah, they're going to see some kind of hit from that. So I think they're going to see some update, and then you're going to see some other stuff from other armies that get nerfed. So destruction, even though they won't change a whole lot, are going to be stronger than normal, which honestly, they're in a great spot right now. You can pick up any destruction army and do well with.
Yeah, I don't think the
shit. I brought trolls and went 3-2 at the GT. So.
And you were real close to doing better.
Yeah, the only 2 I lost to were Lumineth and Deepkin, which are like really good into my trolls.
In my top 5 as far as metas.
Yeah, it's like
right now.
There were the 2 armies that I was perfectly fine losing to, and it was close with Lumineth, real close. So.
Yeah, if there's anything else that you can think of, Adrian, that you're worried about, I just don't see destruction being in a bad place right now. Even ogres with having that BCR aspect of it aren't in a bad place, and foot ogres in general are just going to get better. I think
I would say if they came out with some little tweak to their stuff, I think the synergy with them is just.
Well, the issue is they overvalue the number of wounds that those models have because their saves are terrible. So they overvalue the wounds and they underestimate the amount of damage output that's in the game right now. So,
because they hit really hard, but the problem is like they're just not. They can't get to where they need to quick enough, and they can't when they do get into something. If they're even -1 to hit at all, their hit value just becomes garbage, and you barely get anything through. So. At least in my experience, they usually just they don't get where they need to because the meta has shifted into a shooting style, like a shooting heavy style. So
Yeah, range damage is where
or you hit hard and you hit fast. And the problem is the ogres don't hit
don't
fast.
do any of that.
Yeah.
Like they hit sometimes and it's not great.
Yeah, that's why
And they're not fast.
BCR is just way better as far as that type of skill. But they can only get better. I don't see them ever getting worse in that regards. So
Mm-mm.
I don't know if Gavin has any opinion on Destruction faction as a whole. But
Yeah, I mean, destruction kind of play. It's like board control plus combat damage. So maybe destruction, if charge reactions are what they are supposed to be, maybe destruction is affected by those. Like the stuff that has charge phase damage won't be affected as much, like BCR and Giants also have some charge phase damage. But those two won't be hurt as much. I can see like Big Wall maybe being hit a little bit because stuff can just run away from it when it charges.
well, yeah,
But it'll just be like an adaptation because I mean, the like the ability to adapt is there. It's just going to like the lists just have to follow, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically. I think like orcs are basically just Seraphon minus the magic because you can kind of fit anything in that list to make it do what you want and then have enough points left over to run some kind of extra funny business. So
yeah, to run a 20 block of Savage Arrow Boys.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like you can vastly underestimate them, but that I think you're gonna see if especially if the Rogue Idol goes away or Maw Crusher isn't as good. If Kragnos, he already starts at a 2-up save, so he might actually fit really well into orcs more than any other faction. I think orcs or gits are gonna see a huge buff from having Kragnos because he's basically just they hype him up to be like the Archaon of the Destruction faction. It just depends on the synergy that he can provide.
Agreed.
Because if you just took Archaon, switch the keywords and put it in Destruction, it's a huge buff. I mean, you look at it's just the same as if you took Archaon out of Chaos. It's a huge nerf. So I think that in itself is really all they needed. Destruction is one of the most fleshed out faction alliances in the game.
Yeah, or when that book dropped, that was a monster book. Like that was a nasty book when it hit.
And to answer Adrian's question, I almost feel like they're going to do a Bellicor type thing for Kragnos, where he has his own sub faction where he can just run any destruction thing in there, similar to how Bellicor can run all the demons. So I mean that's just my take on it. It almost seems like it would be a perfect thing, especially since they're hyping him up to be kind of like the god of destruction. So I wouldn't put that past them to do that. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see like destruction being the one that's down right now. Like,
no, I would say death is actually in a worse spot, even with the update from the vampires and the grave lords. I still think they're probably the one that still needs some work on a lot of the other stuff. Order's always getting stuff, and same with chaos. I think Nurgle probably could if they remove the battalions from Nurgle, they're desperately gonna need an update. Like I don't even know what Nurgle is without their battalions. So that's a
good comment in chat. Like, will Kragnos be an Archaon or a Gotrek?
I think he'll be an Archaon. I think he has to be if he's going to be good. I mean, Gotrek is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but like the problem with Gotrek is he doesn't serve an army any decently well.
No, you're just throwing a killer in there.
Yeah, right. I mean he can be crazy. Like I mean he can take on an entire army by himself. But the thing is, he can't redeploy. He can't teleport. He doesn't get buffs from anything because he doesn't even get. I think you only get it from a couple sub factions, but he doesn't even have like a dwarf keyword. He has the Dwarden keyword, and that's it. So and Dwarden in order. So he can get some things, but to make those things, if you build around Gotrek, you're purely building for narrative. That there's no way around that because he's already so expensive by himself. But Archaon, on the other hand, Archaon you can build around Archaon, but Archaon provides so many buffs to the army as a whole. I mean,
Archaon. A lot of times when you bring an Archaon list, you are building around Archaon.
Yeah, I mean the turn.
Whether it is to buff him and have him be your damage, or for him buffing everything else and making there's different ways that you can play Archaon, where he's got some real versatility when you play him, but.
Well, and that's the way we want it too, because you can run him in Khorne and have him do the fight 3 times or whatever. You can run him in Slaanesh, and he's doing all those crazy exploding sixes, and he's got buffing his army by my will, the turn order dictation, or you can run him in Circle of the Six or whatever. Yeah, so then
Nurgle,
everything's battle shock immune. Nurgle, like Tzeentch is -1 to hit, and he can pass off wounds and become essentially like invincible. And change
18-inch bubble off of his giant base of -1 to hit against for shooting. Like shooting is just -1 to hit him.
Yeah. Yeah. So to answer, to I guess continue on Matt's question, like, I don't know if he will. We know he's getting the destruction keyword, but there's nothing in the game that I know of that really benefits from it. It just depends on the keywords ultimately and what he can do for the army. If he just goes in there and he's like, "Oh, I only buff myself and nothing else," well, I mean, we already have. I mean, then it comes down to what's his points worth. Because if he's worth, like what Gavin told me a couple weeks ago when we were talking about him, if he's worth like 800 points, you're just better off running 2 Stonehorns. So it's not really worth, because he's only 18 wounds at a 2-up save. Well, 2-up save only does so much in the current meta, where you can have the bow snakes that Gavin's running, just shoot them in 1 turn, double shoot and kill them, just not mortal wounds, or Lumineth, blow them up. And so I don't know if that's really the idea to. I don't think that's the right route. So either Games Workshop does it correctly and makes him an actual component in the army that people are like, hey, if you run him, it's like running Archaon in your list, where you're not messing around. People don't look at Archaon and go, oh, this guy's just trolling. Or it becomes like a Gotrek where people are like, this guy's just kind of running Gotrek for shits and giggles. So, but from what we've seen, I mean, he's got a really insane magic negate, probably the best in the game, within reason. And then he also has 18 wounds with a 2-up save. That's pretty good. But we don't know his points. You roll 3 dice, and you have to beat not the casting value. Yeah, you beat the casting value of the spell, not what they cast.
Not the roll.
So most spells are a 6 through 8. So you just on 3 dice you just have to roll a 6 through 8. So that's fairly easy to. You're most likely gonna be able to unbind it. I think only against Lumineth there's a couple CV10 spells, and that's it. So, but yeah, I think that one's gonna. Kragnos is gonna be interesting to see. It's either gonna be a huge thing or just a cool narrative character.
Adrian's talking about Skaven now. I mean, Skaven's still pretty good. Like, I get it, they're not what they were, but
they're kind of.
They were a goddamn nightmare for a long time. Like, Skaven were a terrible army to fight against for a long time. As bad as it is to fight Lumineth now, that's what Skaven were early 2019.
I do, yeah. I think piggybacking off of that, I feel like my thing with them is I wish they would take the Chaos faction as a whole and decide whether or not they want the 4 gods plus the Slaves to Darkness to be the only thing, or if they want more than that. Because you have 3 factions outside of those 5, and it depends. Like, we got Chaos Dwarves, you have Beasts of Chaos, and you got Skaven. All 3 of those factions have one thing, basically the same problem, where they're just kind of forgotten factions. As far as no updates, they're barely mentioned in the lore, if at all, and they have incredibly old models. I can't even think of the last new Skaven model.
If they were going to do anything to Skaven, yeah, give them some model updates.
Well,
But I think the
that's the
faction
thing.
is
Yeah.
still strong. Like everyone who is getting into Skaven now that didn't play Skaven in 2019 has forgotten what Skaven used to be. Like they were a damn nightmare. You did
Yeah,
not want to play against
I
Skaven back then.
I never saw Skaven prior to it, but
I think Skaven are still in a good place.
I think the problem with them is you're forced to basically be in two
Scryer.
camps where you're running Scryer for the competitive list,
Pestilence.
or I think it's what Pestilence or Molder, right?
No,
like
it's Pestilence. It's Pestilence. It's Scryer
Yeah.
and Pestilence. But Molder, I like Molder. I do like it. I mean, I guess you could tweak like Eshin and
No.
Molder could use some tweaks.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, absolutely.
But Clan Scryer and Pestilence, I think, are okay. Yes, there are some things that are a bit overcosted, but I think that you could mess with Eshin and Molder a little bit, give it a little bit more love. But
Yeah, I agree with Kevin.
Pestilence,
Skaven models see
man.
more play in Carriage and Overlords than.
Yeah, they do. But Skaven's still good.
I think.
I don't know what you do
Well-
to these things and start overhauling every army in the game
Yeah.
without, like, you first off introduce a new edition, then start worrying about overhauling factions. Because if you try to do it all at one time, there's going to be some unhappy people.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's the thing too. Is like, 2.0 was supposed to be updating every faction, and yet Beasts of Chaos and Skaven. Well, Skaven only saw nerfs, from what I understand. Where Beasts of Chaos saw nothing. That I think they got an underworld warband, and that was it. And then Chaos Dwarves are just being removed from the game, as far as we know. I mean, there's rumors and stuff, but there's always been rumors. But it's one of those things where it's like, I wish they would either just make it that, like the gods and Slaves to Darkness, or actually focus on those factions. So it's wishful thinking, but at the same time, I would say that part of Chaos and Death are the ones that need the love the most. So, well, yeah, no, yeah, James said that they were one of the first 2.0 books, but I mean, so were Chaos Dwarves got their update back in 2017 as well, and then I don't know about Skaven, but that's the thing, they're all like, all three of those are like, unless you're talking about Scryer, you're like bottom of the barrel on some of that stuff. So they're all decently playable factions, but they're not really like factions that you can take to GTs and expect to do well enough to make it worth your while.
I still think you can 4-1 with Skaven. I think you're going to struggle at the higher.
Yeah, but with
games
the entire
with 5-0.
the entire range of Skaven, how many can you actually bring that are viable? In most armies, you can bring 50 to 75% and be like, yeah, these are actual viable units. Whereas with Skaven and
Beast, saw a lot.
Yeah.
With old AOS was it tunneled you into a particular faction in the book. Faction in the books were way stronger than everything else. So,
which is unfortunate because, like, when I think of like the best balanced faction, I think of Gloomspite gets, because out of all the factions I've played, they're the ones that I can run Moon Clan. I can run anything in Moon Clan. I can run anything in Spider. Well, I can run anything in Trolls and Squigs. I mean, I run the entire Squig in the Super Battalion, and then even Spiderfang has some play. Spiderfang are the weakest of the four, and yet they still can perform very well. You can run anything in that army, and you're not
balanced. And so is and the Orc book is like that as well.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
Like,
you can. They did really well into that. I mean, even Suns is one of those things where, like, yes, they have some hard matchups, but these stronger armies that I fight, like Lumineth and some, Seraphon and stuff, they actually play pretty well into, because of that Mightier is Righter rule. You just go in there and take an objective, and they have to kill your unit to make it worth it. So, even against Doc on Arcane Power, you can walk up and say, yep, this is my objective, Marathi. And now Marathi has to, you just avoid the one that the Shadow Queen's on, and take the other two, and now you have a game to continue with. It's one of their it's Sons of Bama is one of the top factions for arcane power and those type of objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's kind of the rumors and stuff. But yeah, I think. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we're 2 hours in now. I think we got a tournament to get ready for in the morning. So
yeah, it's past everyone's bedtime.
Yeah, appreciate everybody coming out and watching, and we'll see you guys in the morning.
See you guys. Have a good one.